Yo, what up, guys? It's Boyson back at it again with the white bands. Today we're gonna talk about rolling. I know a lot of you want to really understand the nuances of rolling, so this is a quick guide on when and how to roll. So, for one cost rerolls, generally you want to econ up all throughout stage 2. And then build your econ up, right? Maybe most of the times you're going to be loose streaking. So you want to hit the 10, 20, 30, 40 econ intervals as much as possible. So you can build your interest up. And then you don't want to manually push levels as well, because we want to stay as low level as possible so that we have higher odds to get one cost, right? So for here, say we're playing in Tristana. Tristana reroll. We're going to roll at 3-1, which is the last stage before you go level 5. It'll be at level 4, so we econ up all the way to this point, built our interest, so we roll for as many copies of these units as possible, down to 30 gold generally, and then we look for the rest of the copies at level 5 as we build our interest back up and slow roll above 50 gold so we can get maximum interest, which means we just roll down to 50 each turn, right, to get as many copies. If your HP starts getting too low, say you start getting to the 40s, 30s, we have to commit much more gold to hit these 3 stars, because we do not want to get into like one-shot potential late game, right? It's the same with the other one cost reroll where she KO, take out Viego. In this instance, where is this dude, Galio? So same concept, Poppy, Maokai, Kale, roll for a lot of these. I wouldn't even upgrade Galio to Galio 2 because that's a waste of gold, to be honest. I just care about these units, right? At 3-1, at level 4, right? Same concept, roll 30 gold, and then econ up at level 5, slow roll, move on, right? And then our level 5 is just gonna be, where's the sled dude? Right here. And then, right, just 3 stars, and then when you reach your 3 stars, obviously you level up for like, I don't know, Timo, and then whatever, right? And then Gwen at 7, ideally. Yeah. But for one cost reveal, it's pretty simple. Generally the same, the formula is the same. And it's generally the same for 2 costs as well, right? So for this example, I'm using Zed. It's 2 cost reroll, 2 cost carry. So it's the same concept as 1 cost, except what you do here instead of rolling at level 4, obviously, because the odds for 2 costs aren't that high, you build your econ up to a 3-2, and at 3-2, you level 6. Ideally, you want to stabilize and roll for like Z2, set 2 if possible, 1 copy of Darius, 1 copy of Katarina, stuff like that, right? Glide as well. But it's mostly the Zed I really want to upgrade, and then you'll probably have like a couple items by now, like maybe Hodge, IE, and then yeah. And then you want to slow roll above 50 gold, like build your econ back up after you stabilize, and then slow roll above 50 gold to try to get 3-star Zed. If you can, 3-star Katarina. Zed, I wouldn't go for Darius, because it's just too much gold. Unless you're like really rich and you're win streaking, then you have the luxury of going for it, sure. So this is the same for most 2 cost rerolls. It doesn't have to be Zed, it could be like, say you have Ravenous Hunter Warwick, and then you just like it's the same concept, right? Okay, so for 3 cost rerolls, so I'm gonna use Invokers as an example. Ideally, if you can, for this comp and a lot of 3 cost rerolls, if you have the luxury of being able to skip 6 a bit, I would, because well, the odds for level 7 for 3 costs of level 7 is the best, right? Other than that, for this comp specifically, we want at higher odds of hitting Shen, because Shen is what really puts this comp together. Because without Shen, it is this comp is noticeably less tanky. So let's put some tank on him, right? So because Shen is so integral to this comp, so important, it is very important that we go 7 if possible. But oftentimes, might not be able to, or we might have to roll a little bit at 6, especially if you're win streaking. At level 6, it's probably gonna look something like this, right? If you have like a Taric pair, Galio pair, Soraka pair, or like 2 of those, I would consider rolling a little bit just for upgrades, and you don't have Karma or something, right? Maybe we roll a little bit at 6 for 1 karma. These upgrades, target pair especially, consider that. If you're full lose streaking, right, if you saw my lose streak vid, we can completely bypass level 6, full lose streak. It's gonna seem scary because you're losing a lot of HP, but at 3-5, we just full on send it. Hopefully we get one shed, but mainly what we're looking for is target 2, karma 2, and like obviously the other upgrades, right? But if we get a shed, we're high rolling. So yeah, 3 cost rerolls, generally level 7. Sometimes there's specific scenarios where you have to roll at 6 instead. Okay. Now, a comp that you probably have to roll pretty heavily at 6, but it's a 3 cost reroll, is Noxus. Why? Well, the comp is kind of doo-doo right now, but besides that, Noxus is a snowball comp. Completely reliant on high rolling. You want to win fights to build Noxus stacks. You don't have Darius 2 at stage 3, you're most likely not going to win unless the lobby's super weak. So, a lot of times, for Noxus, we just have to roll down at 3-2 and pray for Darius 2 in category 2, I guess, right? Maybe have like a BT, Titans, whatever, right? So, right, we have to roll down at 6 a lot of times because what happens if you don't stabilize and you don't start win streaking stage 3, A, you're not going to get Noxus stacks, and if you start lose streaking through stage 3 with Noxus, you're going to be like 40 HP at level 7 at 4-1. You finally roll your gold, you hit Darius 2 Katarina, and guess what? You don't even win fights because you don't have Noxus stacks, and you're up against like some freak with Aphelios 2, Bastion, and then even with your upgraded Noxus board, you kill like 1 unit, and then you just go 7. This comp it's not as strong as it used to be because Smira was so strong before that she could just stabilize you stage 3 off a 2-star version of Smira and just 1 cost copies, maybe Swain 2 as well because he was a Giga tank, right? But now the comp is a bit neutered. It is what it is. So this is an example of comp where 3 cost reroll, hypothetically you should go 7 and roll, stabilize, go, and then you come back up and then like slow roll, but this comp doesn't really follow that script, right? I just want to show that to you. That's that for reroll comps. I want to now get into the bread and butter of TFT, and this is going to be applicable for every set, not just this one. So how do we decide how and when to roll generally if we're trying to play for 4 costs carries, right? 4 cost comps, 4 cost tanks, all that. 5 costs as well. So what I have here is a generic level 6 board for when you're playing Flex AD, Flex AD, which means probably Felios and sometimes Zeri. But say we have these items, we're like leaning 80% of Felios, and if the Zeri 2's on is good, we'll play Zeri, or we get a free Zeri 2, right? Like we'll just play it, doesn't matter. So say we have this board and we have 1 cost, but we have like a Warwick and a Swain pair. Especially for win streaking, I would heavily consider rolling for at least one of these upgrades, right? At 6, at 3-2, right? Because it is important that we get more frontline so we continue our win streak, right? And say you didn't have Darius and you had like a random lead, we could potentially get Darius as well, right? For this Warwick. Definitely worth considering if you're win streaking. If you're lose streaking, I would again try to bypass, just forget about level 6 and just go 3-5 and just send it and just try to go for your level 7 board or as many copies of your level 7 board as possible. Maybe like a Calista 2 and then move items over or something like that. Yeah, but otherwise, honestly, if you have 2 pairs, like important frontline pairs, I would consider rolling a little bit regardless just to save HP at 6. But I would only roll like 10 gold. I don't want to commit like 30 gold 6 or else we're doing a little bit of trolling, right? Because we'll never be able to go 7. And we'll be behind tempo the entire game. So this is probably what the previous comp is going to look like at level 7, right? So ideally you get 1 Aphelios, 1 Urgot, could even be Zeri instead, and then I don't know. That maybe like if you're running Zeri, it's probably just it's like do this or something, right? Right, we're most likely going to have upgraded Juggernauts from our previous board when we're rolling down a 7, so we just play around them for a little bit while we start finding like backline carries, right? If we go back to the Aphelios, like 1 copy of Aphelios and Urgot, it's nice, Obviously, like, we start getting our failure units as well, and Tarek. If you get a Sedge, maybe we can just give up on the Juggernauts themselves. But if we have like a 1-star Sedge and we had 2-star Urgot, I mean 2-star Warwick and 2-star Darius, I probably wouldn't like get rid of Darius just yet, and maybe just like Sedge, maybe instead of like Lysandra for a little bit of extra frontline, right? Or maybe just not Tarek if it's like especially 1-star Tarek and we have a 2-star list. Just do this instead. Right, we're slowly transitioning to our late game board, but we're not taking out our key frontline pieces just yet because we like probably 2-star Warwick, 2-star Darius. Even though they're not like the most useful units, they're still frontline, right? And then right, this is our level 7. We're loose streaking. We'll roll at 3-5. We're loose streaking, but generally at 4-1, I want to get a mindset of rolling a 7 a lot, especially. If you're not win streaking, you're not 100 HP, you're not 90 HP, you're say that you're like 60. We have to roll just to get any semblance of our late game board, because bad habit that a lot of players do is that they greed level 8, especially when they're playing contested comp like fellas, because you know everyone and their mother's playing this comp, right? So if you're contested, you definitely have to roll a little bit earlier. If you try to go 8 off like this board and you're like 60 HP, what's gonna happen is, if the enemy teams are even slightly strong, you'll start losing. You'll be like 40, 30 something HP going to 4-5. Then when you go to 4-5, you go 8 and you have like what, 20 gold to roll. Do you think 20 gold is enough to like find all of this? Because if we level up to 7 at 4-1 and we try to level at 8 at 4-5, we're gonna have to spend 52 gold to level up. Yeah, so that's a lot of gold. You're gonna have at most like 30 at best to roll, and that's not even enough to find to really stabilize. And it's especially not worth the 30 HP you sacrifice to get to that point. So because they made the price of going 8 higher, or leveling in general higher, it's definitely been a roll 7 meta for quite a while, the entire set actually. And it probably will remain the same for 9.5, the mid set. So that's for like Freljord Felios. Another example. Oh, actually, we're still on it. So, this is probably like our late game iteration, right? We're gonna go 8 after we've stabilized bit here. I mean, 1 copy of Aphelios, 1 copy of Urgot, and then we have upgrades of this, right? Like 1 copy of Sedge. Then we go 8 after we stabilize, and at 8, we roll for 2 stars. Oftentimes, if you're very low, you have to roll for 2 stars of these as well as 7. It's a bit of a gamble, but if you're low, you have no choice, right? So, this late game, level 9. Obviously, Aatrox, Scion, Heimerdinger, Senna, very key pieces of our late game comp. What's probably more typical of what your level 8 is going to be is Sandra, 3, 4, 4. And then our last one, it could be, honestly, it could just be like, sometimes it's like a random Nasus. Even be Soraka for 3 Targon if you have nothing else. But it could be even like a random Jarvan, but ideally, right, it's one of the use of 5 cost Aatrox, Heimer, you know, stuff like that, right? And then like you stabilize off of this, and then think about going 9, if you have 2 stars of everything, right? So that's for like Aphelios Freljord. Another line, very popular line, challengers. So this is a stereotypical level 6 board for that you're playing for challengers, right? You slam the Shojin, slam Guardbreaker, Ionic, probably looking for Kaisa items, right? Jin's just carrying the Kaisa items for now. Stereotypical level 6 board. Again, if you have 1-star everything and you're not full on loose streaking and you have pairs of like Warwick and Set, I would consider rolling, especially if you're win streaking. Alright, if you're win streaking, it's definitely good to invest a little bit of gold at 6 to stabilize and continue win streak. Otherwise, if you're full lose streaking, again, we keep losing, 3-5, send it, hit or miss. We miss, go next. It is what it is, it's TFT. Right. I mean, yeah, that's basically it for level 6. Our level 7 is probably gonna look like this, right? Again, for most comps, but especially this comp, you really want to stabilize at level 7. If you're really rich, or you're really high HP, win streaking 90 plus HP, then we could consider sacking the early stage 4 and going 8 at 4 or 5. But in any normal scenario, probably, right, we just roll at 7 for at least 1 copy of Yasuo, 1 copy of Kaisa. Ballista 2, very important. And then 2-star copies of these, because without it, you won't have any frontline at all. So, yeah, generally roll down maybe to 20, 10 gold, find upgrades, and then we econ up again, and then if you hit, like, start naturally hitting, like, Kaisa, Yasuo, or whatever, maybe we can consider rolling again, right? Say you don't find these guys, though. Maybe we find 1 Gwen instead. And then instead of that, we'll find 1 Gwen for Shadow Isle for the Kalista, right? Kalista 2. Maybe we have a Karma 2. In this instance, Karma will be carrying the Kaisa items for now, right? And then we'll just do this. In the meantime, if we can't find Yasuo or Kaisa, then try to stabilize on this alone, and then we can consider going up, right? And then, like, our late game, well, not late game, like our stage 5 or whatever, right? Ideally, so this is what our level, like, 8 is gonna look like, right? So then you sell the Karma, you get Kaisa, and then you move the items over, and then Yasuo has, like, this, whatever, right? And then until you get this as well. So, like, yeah. So this is what our level 8 board is gonna be. Right, but I want to get a mindset that we stabilize to level 7 again. Especially if you don't know when to roll, I would just hammer in my mind, roll level 7, early stage 4, and then, like, not to 0, like 10 to 20, so that we're not completely broke and we have the potential to build our econ back up again. And then when we stabilize a bit, we could consider going 8, at either 4 or 5, but most likely like 5-1, especially if you invested too much gold at level 7, right? And then, like, late game, we are gonna sell the useless challengers and then throw in stuff like Senna and Aatrox. Okay, Senna, Aatrox, right? Give Slayer, Shadow Isle. I mean, Senna can be interchangeable with, like, Heimerdinger even. Then Set is gonna be Shen, right? This is probably our late game for this comp. If you have a challenger +1, maybe we can play 6 challengers, but otherwise this is just like generic late game comp for challengers. But the main point I really want to hammer in is that we want to stabilize stage 4, because I don't want to get in the thought process of, hey, yo, we're just gonna greed 8, just roll the dice on like 30 gold and then hope we Kaisa 2 Yasuo 2. It ain't happening, right? So if we're gonna roll 30 gold to have the same board we could have potentially had a 7, I mean, why would we lose the 30 HP just to get the same board, right? It makes no sense. I'd rather play for a more like a statistically higher chance of getting top 4, right? So, I mean, this is basically a simple, well, kind of simple guide. I didn't want to make this video too long, but yeah, I hope this helped, and look out for more guides in the future, I guess. Thanks for the support, guys.